immigration. A topic so nuanced and complex, it makes a plate of IKEA instructions look like a Dr. Seuss book. And yet somehow, it's become the political piñata of our time, whacked around by politicians eager to score cheap points and demonize anyone who dares dream of a better life. Here's the thing. People migrating across borders is about as novel as the sun rising in the east. It's been happening for millennia. What's changed is how we talk about it, how we let fear and prejudice warp a complex issue into a convenient boogeyman. Buckle up, buttercups, because we're about to unpack how governments weaponize illegal immigration to control you, me, and that guy over there who's still trying to figure out what a piñata is. First things first, let's retire the phrase immigration crisis. It's a term that's been overused and misused to the point of losing any real meaning. Why? Because it's mostly a fabricated narrative designed to make you clutch your pearls and reach for the smelling salts. The media and politicians often sensationalize the issue to provoke fear and anxiety. You see, when governments want to push through draconian policies, justify bloated budgets, or simply distract you from their own failings, they need a good villain. And what better villain than the faceless, nameless, illegal immigrant? Enter the illegal immigrant. Cue the ominous music and grainy footage of people crossing a border. This imagery is designed to evoke fear and suspicion. The reality? Most immigration, even undocumented immigration, is driven by factors we can all understand. Poverty, violence, lack of opportunity. These are not just statistics, these are human lives. People are literally fleeing for their lives or seeking a chance to feed their families. They are making unimaginable sacrifices for a shot at a better life. But framing it as a rational response to desperate circumstances doesn't exactly get the fear-mongering juices flowing, does it? It's easier to dehumanize and vilify. It's far more effective to paint a picture of hordes of criminals and job stealers coming to destroy your way of life. Subtle, ain't it? This narrative serves to divide and distract rather than to inform and solve. Once you've successfully convinced everyone that the sky is falling and it's made of undocumented immigrants, you can pretty much justify any policy, no matter how ludicrous or morally bankrupt. Need to ramp up surveillance? Terrorism? Want to militarize the border? National security? Feeling a bit spendy? Let's throw billions at a wall that wouldn't even stop a determined squirrel with a good pair of wire cutters. It's the oldest trick in the authoritarian playbook. Create the problem, then present yourself as the only solution. And because nobody wants to be seen as soft on security, except for those weirdos who think compassion is a good thing, we swallow the bitter pill of eroded civil liberties and ever-increasing government overreach. Here's a fun game to play next time. You're feeling politically astute. Pay attention to when the immigration debate heats up. Chances are it's when something else is happening that those in power would rather you not focus on. A tanking economy, blame immigrants, a scandal involving a politician, and an uncomfortable amount of mayonnaise. Immigrants! It's like a political magician's sleight of hand. Look at the scary brown people, not at the man behind the curtain with his hand in your pocket. The cynical truth is that keeping the immigration pot boiling is a fantastic way to deflect attention from real issues that require actual solutions, not just scapegoats. And let's be clear, this isn't about legitimate concerns about border security or managing immigration flows. It's about exploiting fear and prejudice to consolidate power and avoid accountability. Election season, that magical time when politicians transform into pandering, promise-spewing versions of your drunk uncle at a wedding. And what's the one topic guaranteed to get the base riled up and ready to stuff ballot boxes? You guessed it, immigration. It's like a political piñata filled with votes, just waiting to be whacked open with increasingly outlandish promises and thinly veiled bigotry. Suddenly, everyone's an expert on border security, with solutions ranging from the nonsensical to the downright inhumane. And while reasonable people are left wondering how we devolved into a society that treats human beings like political bargaining chips, the fearmongers are laughing all the way to the bank, their pockets lined with campaign contributions from folks who apparently get their news from dystopian novels. It's easy to get caught up in the political theater of it all, the grandstanding, the heated debates, and the endless cycle of news coverage. The sound bites, the statistics, the dehumanizing language, but let's not forget that behind every illegal immigrant statistic, every number and every headline, there's a human being with hopes, dreams and fears, just like the rest of us. These are people fleeing unimaginable violence, persecution and poverty, seeking a chance at a better life, only to be met with walls, detention centers and a system that seems designed to break their spirit. We're talking about families torn apart, children locked in cages, and the emotional scars that may never heal. Desperate people dying in the desert trying to reach safety, their dreams ending in tragedy. This isn't a game, folks, it's a harsh reality. It's about real lives being destroyed by policies built on fear, prejudice, and a callous disregard for human dignity. And before you start spewing talking points about the rule of law, consider the human cost. Ask yourself this. What kind of society are we creating when we prioritize ideology over empathy? What message are we sending to the world and to ourselves about who we are and what we value? Here's a fun fact that will surprise absolutely no one. There's a lot of money to be made from fear. And when it comes to immigration, there's a whole industry that's sprung up to profit from the panic, peddling everything from overpriced border walls to for-profit detention centers that make a killing, literally in some cases, off the backs of human misery. We're talking about private prison companies lobbying for stricter immigration laws, defense contractors hawking surveillance tech like it's going out of style, and media outlets churning out fear-mongering headlines that would make a tabloid blush. It's a cynical feedback loop where fear begets profit, and profit begets more fear. And the real kicker, we're the ones footing the bill, both financially and morally. Here's a newsflash that might blow your mind. The United States doesn't have a monopoly on the immigration crisis racket. From Europe to Asia, governments around the world are using the same playbook, whipping up fear and resentment towards immigrants to distract from their own failings and consolidate power. It's almost like there's a global memo circulating amongst the political elite, a how-to guide on demonizing the other and profiting from the ensuing chaos. And while the faces of the scapegoats may change, the underlying message remains the same. Be afraid. Be very afraid. And for the love of all that is holy, don't look at the man behind the curtain who's pulling all the strings. So how do we break free from this cycle of fear and manipulation? Step 1, start questioning everything. The next time you hear a politician or pundit spout off about the immigration crisis, don't just accept it as gospel. Dig deeper, look at the facts, and ask yourself, who benefits from this narrative? Challenge the dehumanizing language, the stereotypes, and the outright lies that are used to justify inhumane policies. Educate yourself on the real issues, the root causes of migration, and the complex realities of border security. And for the love of all that is decent, don't let fear and prejudice cloud your judgment. Okay, so now you're informed, outraged, and maybe even a little bit terrified. But what can you actually do about it? Well, for starters, put down the pitchforks and Molotov cocktails. Violence is never the answer, no matter how satisfying it might seem in the moment. Instead, channel that righteous anger into something productive. Vote for politicians who understand that compassion isn't a weakness, it's a strength. Support organizations that are fighting for the rights of immigrants. Call out bigotry and misinformation whenever you see it, even if it's your racist uncle at Thanksgiving dinner. And most importantly, never ever stop believing in the power of empathy and human connection. The immigration crisis is a manufactured crisis, a cynical ploy to divide us and distract us from the real issues facing our society. Politicians and media outlets often exploit this issue to stoke fear and gain power, creating an atmosphere of distrust and hostility. But it doesn't have to be this way. We have the power to change the narrative and focus on what truly matters. We can choose to reject the fear-mongering, the dehumanization, and the cynical profiteering. By coming together and standing up against these divisive tactics, we can foster a sense of unity and shared purpose. We can choose to build a world where everyone, regardless of where they were born or how they got here, has the opportunity to live a dignified and fulfilling life. It won't be easy. It will take time, effort, and a collective commitment to justice and equality. It will require courage, compassion, and a willingness to challenge those in power. We must be ready to confront the systems and structures that perpetuate inequality and division. But if we can summon the collective will to reject the politics of fear and embrace the principles of empathy and human rights, then maybe, just maybe, we can create a world where the only borders that matter are the ones we build between ourselves, a world where love and understanding triumph over hate and ignorance. And that, my friends, is a future worth fighting for, a future where hope and humanity prevail, where sanity and compassion guide our actions.
Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Want to be the first to know when we upload a new video? Tap the notification bell. And we love hearing from you. Drop a comment below with your thoughts and questions. Lastly, share this video with your friends who are passionate about the global immigration crisis.